Lal Wahawad La Yahweh Shem Shaiba Shem Kwakadash, double honors to the apostles of Elders at Gms.S.O.T.E rule and teach well. Peace and salutations to the brothers on the four corners of this earth, pushing this word and truth. Also in sincerity, I'm Brother Munatazaki with another short video about a video, Brother Yara posted this video in the group, and I just thought that I'd do a quick video on it because, it's really, it's information that more or less we all know. I just like the way the person break it down. They break it down in pair like basic terms, and I just had like two or three I think it's two scriptures came to mind when I read it. When I watched it, so like it could go deep, but my videos will be straight to the point. It's a real good video. It's a real good video. Yes, the title of the video is the best kept secret of the US dollar, I believe, or something like that. I think it's on YouTube, but for some reason it can't send on WhatsApp, so you didn't. You could type in that on YouTube and see what comes up, yeah? So, without further ado.
At this point in history, virtually every human on this planet is enslaved, whether they know it or not. This is not the crude and primitive slavery of ancient times. It does not rely on whips and shackles to keep the oppressed in their place. These tools have been rendered obsolete by much more sophisticated methods. That most of the enslaved are unaware of their condition and would in fact argue fiercely that they are free is a...
Yeah, you hear what the fella say? He said most of the oppressed go say, well, they're free. Same way if we ask anybody today, use a free man, they will tell you yes. But yet you need a passport or a visa to fly here, to go there, You need to show some form of ID to enter into a place. That means what? You're not free. You can't just get up off your own free will and go somewhere. No, you need documentation, right?
The testament to the effectiveness of these invisible chains. You've heard the expression, money makes the world go round. There's truth in that. Money is the prime motive for human labor in modern civilization. If you want
He says the prime motive for human labor.
Food, shelter, and clothing, you must have money. And unless you're part of that tiny minority that has more money than they could ever spend in their lifetime, then you must work, beg, or steal for that money. That's why you get up in the morning and go to work, even if you hate your job.
Yeah, somebody reaching into there's an elephant backside, I think, to take out that. Yeah? They say you must work, beg, or steal just for money. I'm going to start a precept here. A 1 Timothy 6 and 10. It says, "For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some covet after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows." You understand? Many sorrows. The things what you do for money, as the fellow was saying, the things you do for money because you love it. The love of it is the root of all evil, not being content. You understand? The mistake gain for godliness, you err from the faith. You understand? You go off because of what? Because of the purse, man. Take the purse and now they're preaching heresies, damnable heresies are that. Yeah? It say, "But thou, man of power, flee these things and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, meekness." Nothing he say there is tangible. Nothing he say there costs money. Nothing Paul wrote there costs money. Nothing. You understand? But it's for the love of money. What you do? You err from the faith and pay yourself through with many sorrows. You heap to yourself sins through the love of money, the covetousness of it, wanting it. You know what I mean? Desiring it so much. And that is what the fella began the video with, talking about how people in that docile mindset, thinking they're free, but they are not. Because why? Everything they do is for what? Is for money. They are slave to it. You understand? But the fella go on the path. The fella go down the path, we go back into it,
And that's why the specter of unemployment is more terrifying for most people than the prospect of spending 50 years of their life performing menial tasks within the confines of a fluorescent-lit cubicle.
Yeah, so basically what he's saying there, he said by the concept of not working for the money or not getting the money. You understand? Some people fit their life into, you know what I mean? They say, hey, I'm not leaving my 9 to 5. That's what the man say. You spend 50 years working at 9 to 5. You understand? Just so you're sure, your little money secure. You understand? Because why? They are in that docile mindset thinking, hey, money is everything. Yes, we need money to live. The scripture say what money answers all things, but it's the love of it is where the problem comes in.
Of course, in Western countries, some are fortunate enough to have pulled away from the brink and do not live in a fear that their basic needs will be met, at least for now. And yet they keep spinning the hamster wheel. Why is that? Could it be because money and the bling that it buys have become symbols of status and prestige? Money offers an illusory form of social validation, but even those who are not caught up in distinguishing themselves by how much they accumulate still must acknowledge the social stigma. The primal motivators, the need for food.
So what if I say there as well? There's a social stigma against poverty, right? Real poverty is not having this knowledge. Real poverty is not having access to righteousness or salvation. That real poverty, right? Not what the world make it seem, as in not having a Bugatti, not owning a car. You know what I mean? These things are convenient, but they're not necessary. You understand? No, nobody never say to live in a cardboard box, and you know what I mean? That is not what I'm stating. You understand? Scriptures talk about godliness with contentment. You understand? Being content. Yeah? And that social status thing concerning the money that goes into the M.O.T.B, because what they're saying, it will be social credits. So if you speak out against the system, they go deplete your credits until you have nothing. And you will become an outcast same way. Yeah? So they're making you a slave by this the M.O.T.B micro micro CHIP is the new form of that shackle. Is the new form of these chains. Because they're taking it back out. They take it off your hand and foot, put it on your brain. They're taking it and putting it in we hand now. They still have it in we brain, you know. They still, well, not we brain, but you know what I mean. The docile one's mind.
Shelter, clothing, and social validation is a very powerful force. It's enough to drive humans to engage in all forms of activity, even to the point of harming themselves or others in the process.
Yeah, you harm yourself to acquire it, or other people in the process. You understand? Because why the love of it is the root of evil.
The accumulation of money is therefore an accumulation of social and psychological power. And those who control the creation of money control this power at its source.
Right. It's about you know it about saying money is power. Right? Money is power. That is a saying almost everybody know. I'm sure you hear that at least once in your life, but that is why Maya Bauer it said, let me issue and control a nation's money, and I cannot for their laws. You understand? Because you know once you control the money, you control the people, you control the country. That is why the Rothschilds and these people own 95% of the world banking systems. Central banks are like here. You understand? They along with other 1% families own almost all the central banks on the planet, meaning what they own almost all the countries on the planet. Yeah.
So who controls the creation of money? Well, in the case of the US dollar, it's not the government. This shouldn't be an earth-shattering revelation. The fact that the Federal Reserve is a private institution owned by a cartel of the world's most powerful banks is quick.
Hear what you say? A cartel or organization of what the world's most powerful banks goes back into the banking families. Not just the banks. These banks start from what? From a family, stem from a family. Rothschilds, Rockefeller, JP Morgan, these guys. You understand? And they fund both sides of a war. And that is how they acquire the money. You understand? That is how this whole madness start. But we go.
Becoming common knowledge. Even the mainstream media doesn't deny it at this point. However, the full extent of what this means is only clear when you understand how the banking system really works. And unfortunately, this isn't something we're taught in school. Once you have it explained to you in simple terms, you'll understand why. Every dollar in circulation is loaned into existence by a bank. The process begins with the Federal Reserve when they loan out money to the U.S. government and to other entities. You've probably heard this talked about before, especially in regards to the interest rate on those loans, which the Federal Reserve raises and lowers depending on the economic conditions. But what's never talked about in the mainstream is the fact that the Fed isn't actually loaning out money that they have. They are merely typing those dollars into existence on a computer. You may be inclined to believe this money is based on some physical backing like gold, but you'd be mistaken. The Federal Reserve hasn't owned any gold since the 1930s.
We don't. The Federal Reserve does not own any gold at all. We have not owned gold since 1934.
1934, that is almost, by my calculations, if I could be wrong, that is almost a century. That is 93 or 94 years or something like that. 34 in 23, yeah, that is what, yeah. 7 more years again, that will be 100 years. If my calculations are correct, math isn't one of my strong suits, but yeah, they haven't been, the Federal Reserve hasn't owned gold in almost a century. But yet still they could, as the fella say, could type money in to the system on a whim when they feel like it, when it's beneficial for them, and they could raise the inflation rates, driving down the power of the dollar. Yeah.
So we have not engaged in any gold swaps.
When the Federal Reserve loans money to the U.S. government, the Federal Reserve government bonds in exchange. These bonds are simply written promises to pay back the money that was loaned to them with interest through taxation. So to be clear here, the government is taking out a loan from a bank that's creating that money out of thin air, and they're expecting you, the taxpayer, to cover that loan.
Known as public debt. You should go and look that up. I did a video where I bring that out. You should go and look that up. Type in public debt, and you would grasp what the fella talking about. That is the debt that is owed by a country. And he went in depth to explain what exactly it is there. The government will borrow money from the federal bank, right? And is the people, the public, you understand, the citizens of the country have to pay back that loan.
The absurdity of this arrangement is even more obvious when you realize that up until 1913, the U.S. government created its own money and had no need for a bank to play the part of a middleman. That new money loaned out by the Federal Reserve enters circulation through the banks, accumulates in the banks, and in the end, the banks end up holding all the cards. Not necessarily for the reasons you may imagine. Contrary to popular belief, the majority of money in circulation isn't actually created by the Federal Reserve, but rather by the ordinary banks that businesses and individuals use for their checking, savings, and mortgages. How is this possible? Well, like the Federal Reserve, ordinary banks are allowed to loan out money that they don't have. There are, of course, restrictions. Banks are only allowed to loan out 10 times the amount of money that they actually have. So if Wells Fargo has $1,000, they can loan you $10,000, and they expect you to pay back that $10,000 plus interest. This is called fractional reserve banking. 75% of all money in circulation is created in this manner. Now, as bad as this may seem, this is really only the tip of the iceberg. Most banks structure payment plans so that for many years, you're paying almost nothing but interest, and only start paying down the principal gradually. The result of this strategy is that in most cases, you pay far more in interest when you purchase a house than the house itself is worth. So here's the real question. If all money is created through loans, where does the money come from to pay for the interest? Let's say we reset the system to zero, loan $1,000 into existence, and charge 7% interest. We now have a total of $1,000 in the system, but we owe $1,000 plus interest, and that's more. Interest ensures that there's always more debt than money in circulation, because the money to pay the interest doesn't exist.
Yep, that is why it is known that the US dollar or the US banking system is based on what? It's based on debt. So you always have to pay the bank. You always have to pay the bank. You always owe, so you always have to work, and in that context makes you what? A slave. Oh shit. What's about here?
So here's the real question. question. If all money is created through loans, where does the money come from to pay for the interest? Let's say we reset the system to zero, loan $1,000 into existence, and charge 7% interest. We now have a total of $1,000 in the system, but we owe $1,000 plus interest, and that's more. The interest ensures that there's always more debt than money in circulation, because the money to pay the interest doesn't exist. Never has, never will. This would be obvious if there was only one loan being issued to one person in this manner, but when performed on a global scale, the reality is hidden and is transformed into a game of musical chairs where the person ending up without a seat faces bankruptcy and financial ruin. Because every dollar in existence is tied to a debt, this creates an unseen force that draws those dollars back to the banks, kind of like gravity attracts a physical object to Earth. The catch here is that it's the labor of the people that moves that money. Every hour that you work to pay back a loan or to keep the government from throwing you in jail over income taxes is an hour worked for the banks. The total receipts from personal income taxes just barely covers the interest on the national debt. And even the principal for that debt all ends up back in the hands of the banks. And remember, that bank created that money out of nothing. Once you understand that the money that banks loan out isn't actually an asset, but is in fact a piece of legal fiction, it should be clear that you're working for these banks for free. This is a cleverly disguised form of slavery. If you manage to pay your monthly payments, then you are a successful slave, and you're allowed to keep the material comforts that come with that status. But if for some reason you fail to make those monthly payments, then the bank or the IRS comes to take your house, your car, and anything else you have of value. And if somehow, even with this enormous financial advantage, banks still get themselves into trouble, you, the taxpayer, will be forced to bail them out. No matter what, the banks win. To say the game is rigged is an understatement. You might be inclined to think that if you live outside the United States and you don't use dollars, then this situation has no bearing on your life. But you would be wrong. The dollar is both the world reserve currency and the only currency in which oil is sold on global markets. This is often referred to as the petrodollar status. This means that wherever you live, whether your country is an oil exporter or an oil importer, you are affected. If your country is an oil importer, then you are affected by the fact that in order to keep your country running, you have to acquire dollars. To acquire those dollars, you have to send goods and services to the United States or to someone else who did. Likewise, if your country is an oil exporter, you are affected by the fact that you send your oil to the U.S. in exchange for this debt-based money. You're exchanging something of real and tangible value for digits on a screen. And if for some reason the leadership of your country grows tired of this arrangement and tries to pull off the dollar, you'll quickly find the United States military at your doorstep ready to open up a can of democracy on you. Iraq learned this the hard way when they switched their oil sales to euros in 2000, and Libya when they tried to organize a gold-based currency for Africa. Debt-based money is a masterpiece of social engineering, the ultimate tool of the ruling elite. Yet in reality, the whole thing is nothing more than a construct of belief. Our chains are the chains of the mind, and the path to freedom must also begin in the mind. If we want a better future for our
Yeah, so based on what the man say at the end of the day, if you pay off all your debts every month, the man say is what? He's a good slave. Yeah, he's a good slave. Because as he said, this banking system is based on debt. So once it have debt, right, you go always have the banking systems. And then you go on to talk about the petrodollar and how the whole world is, or I should say was, affected by it because, right, as we speak, there are 26 countries, you know what I mean, that join BRICS right now, the 26 countries strong, and they trade in their local currencies. They're not using the US dollar. They're dumping the US dollar, the so-called petrodollar, right? So we're seeing the fall of the petrodollar, and that is why America pushing for digitalization and the implementation of the M.O.T.B. So their system would be in place. You understand? And even if you think, well, you know, BRICS is decided to be on because they are against America, you'd be wrong. Because they are not say they want to come up with a common unit of currency for all their collective nations. You know what I mean? Everybody that is a part of BRICS. So they still want that one currency. You understand? They still want to have one singular unit, measure or type of currency for all of them. Yeah. But the aspect I wanted to focus on, right, apart from that, is the fact that fella keep saying this is a modern day form of slavery. What just happened? Alright, great. It's a modern day form of slavery. Right? And to the ones that are asleep, they don't see it. They just think they're acquiring, not knowing they're acquiring nothing. Yeah? They're acquiring absolutely nada, naught, nil. You understand? Let me go to Matthew. The book of Matthew 6 and 31. It says, therefore take no thought, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or wherewith shall we be clothed? For all these things do the Gentiles seek. Yeah? For your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all things. Yeah. The Most High know what we need, and He will supply it. He is the Most High. But seek ye first the kingdom of power and His righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Take therefore no thought for tomorrow, for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Yeah, you have enough problems for today. Don't worry about tomorrow. The Most High go deal with that. You understand? When tomorrow come, you'll worry about it. And the scripture says, take no thought of what you will eat, or what you will drink, or what you will wear. You understand? If you focus only on things that pertain to the flesh, when would you focus on things that pertain to the spirit? That is the point I wanted to bring across. All these things are things pertaining to the flesh. Yeah? If you focus on these things, the only thing you'll be focusing on is money. And when you go focus on everlasting life, when you go focus on the Most High, I'm going to go to 2 Corinthians to close off. The 2 Corinthians 4 and 18. It says, while we look not at the things which are seen, yeah, because we know everything in this kingdom is only for a time, right? But at the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Yeah, we seek an everlasting life. We seek salvation. You can't see salvation, right? We seek the kingdom to come. Yeah, you all rather live comfortable now in a kingdom that is going to fall, and you all will be what? You all will go ahead and take that charagma to be in servitude. You all are pledging allegiance to Edom. You understand? And you know what? You all going to be damned. You all are going to be damned. You understand? So therefore, money equals slavery, which would equal what? The M.O.T.B, basically. You understand? And that is why I entitled the video this. So with that, I will say, that will honors to the apostles and elders of Gms.S.O.T.E. Peace and salutations to the brothers and the four corners of this earth, pushing this word in truth, also in sincerity. I am Brother M.O.T.B saying Shalom. Hoping the video was insightful and edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Shalom.